So picture this. We had a full team, there's 6 to 7 to 8 of us on the stage, and we thought for a second, because I was crammed in between our bassist and our acoustic guitarist, that maybe, just maybe, we should swap me from my position in between two people, because I jump around so much, with the vocalist on the edge of the stage. Not a big deal, because it's functionally, I just had to take my guitar, which was wireless, walk over to the other side of the stage and plug into the in-ears on that side of the stage. The only reason I could do that was because I had my PODGO wirelessly attached to my pedal board. I just left my pedal board at my spot. I just walked over to the other side of the stage and we just tested it out for a couple songs. This was the moment of great pride in my life, because I'm sitting here being all I had to do was walk over here. We didn't have to run any lines. We didn't have to stress our sound man out with anything except for noting that this mic and that mic were now two different singers. And I thought to myself, wow, if this isn't the life, I don't know what is. What is up, Yoshis? My name is Beth and I run Steadfast Ascent, and I've been waiting very, very many days to make this video. If you have this board and you have an opinion about it, I'd love to hear it. If you don't have this board and you would like to know a question about the thing, let us know. And between those of us who love this thing very dearly and those of us who have an opinion about it, you should be able to come away with a really comprehensive answer to your question. Now let's get into this. You may be wondering what happened at the end of this stage setup, and I will finish that story by the end of the video. At 1 month after having gotten my PODGO, I made a review. And I loved the PODGO, and I thought that the wireless one was the way to go, and it just brought so much joy to my heart and so much joy to my life, and I'm here several months later, and I'm happy to report that I feel the exact same way about my PODGO, with the wisdom and experience of having used it almost every Sunday for the past several, I think we're at 9 months now, pretty close to 9 months, if not almost 10, of consistent usage. And this bad boy is not slowing down even a smidge. So let's bust through some statistics so I can tell you why this pedal board is still my favorite and why it might be your favorite too. The sound quality of this board, it's just so good, man. So I may have mistakenly given you the impression that it uses Helix patches, and that is not correct. However, the same software that builds Helix patches built the PODGO sounds. So you're getting a high caliber, highly editable sound coming from your guitar suddenly. To have this many sounds at the press of a button is absolutely astonishing, and I give it a 9 out of 10. Speaking of the ease of building your own sounds, when I first got the PODGO, I was very distressed at how not intuitive it was to build my own sounds. So now that I've owned it, for so long and know how to make changes to my sound on the go, and bumping up my score to a solid 8 out of 10. It's actually super easy to change your sounds from the board. You don't have to plug it into a computer to make changes to your sound. You can do everything that you need to do for a set right on the board. And it's actually really intuitive once you know the setup, because the PODGO is set up like a normal analog board. So if you want to change your delay sound, if you want to change your reverb sound, you just have to go into those pedals, and you can either change the settings of those pedals specific to your snapshot or just to your preset, or you can change the whole pedal altogether and then go in and tweak that pedal as you wish. So now that I know you don't need to use a computer to make it, it's an easy 8. Easy 8. The ease of recording, I dropped down from a 10 out of 10 to a 9 out of 10. And it might just be my board, but this is because whenever I plug in my USB to my board and I plug in my headphones right next to it and I'm trying to listen to what I've recorded, there's just this little hum. If that's just my unit, can someone please let me know? I would like to, not have to deal with this. So it's still plug in and play. I haven't had to install any new equipment, any new plugins, any new anything. I just plug it in and then I start noodly doodly doodling after pressing record. Regarding the size and the weight and the quality, it still stands at a 10 out of 10. It's so small, it's so light, and it's not going anywhere soon. What I mean by that is the quality is so high that I expect to be using this long into my future, because it's just great and it travels well and it's so very delightful to play. Now, the big question on everyone's mind is probably still, well, okay, it's been 9 months. How is that wireless receiver holding up? As of the recording of this date, quite well. I've managed to figure out a bunch of the quirks to the system that makes it so that I actually don't ever have to worry about my wireless signal dropping. The only catch to that is that I've actually had to stay pretty close to my pedal board before it starts dropping. So in that instance, when I swapped with my singer, I actually got to the other side, and I don't know if it was interference with my XVive pack or what it was, but it was holding signal 90% of my notes. But then every once a minute or so, it would just start dropping for no reason. And I thought at first, I'm like, am I just hearing this in my XVive because the signal is interfering with that signal? And so I'm not getting a clear sound. But then I asked the rest of my team, I'm like, hey guys, I'm gonna play a thing and let me know if it drops. And I start playing and they're like, oh. I mean, I didn't notice when the whole band was in, but when I'm just listening to you, you're definitely cutting. And I was really sad. So the singer and we swapped our places back, and I said, oh, this is not the best day of my life. I am not the coolest cat in the room, but I am still wireless. So, I mean, maybe I am a pretty cool cat. The signal is strong, even 9 months later. And I have definitely, maybe or maybe not, used both an electric and an acoustic guitar on one set and just click, click, without any pops to my new sound. I made a whole video outlining how I set up my PODGO so that I never drop my signal, and that system has worked really well for me. Other than getting too far away from the board, I don't lose signal from my pedal board. And that makes my sound engineer quite happy, and it makes me super delighted. I still don't understand how the battery works, but using my no-fail signal drop system, I've never had issues with running out of battery. I guess we just don't play long enough for the battery situation to be a situation, which means that battery situation, while in question, isn't a situation. I haven't had any of the known issues with the G10 relay system. Everything has worked pretty well for me, and I've been using it every other week for the past 9 months. I've found actually though that I prefer having my guitar cable plugged in and having my in-ears unplugged, which is why I use the XVive U4, rather than having my in-ears plugged in and my guitar wireless. So I found that having more than one wireless system means that I have a lot less reliable of a wireless system, so I tend to just pick one, and depending on the Sunday, I will pick either in-ears to be wireless or I will pick the guitar to be wireless. And in either situation, I never have any issues with that as long as there's only one. But sometimes when I use them both together and everyone gets into the room with me and there's all sorts of signal flow happening, I tend to experience some just weird moments where you're like, oh gosh, I don't know if I cut because I'm cutting or if I cut out because I'm just not hearing it or there's a signal interference. No one has told me that they've noticed it, so I assume that it's probably just signal interference with the earpiece, but I just don't know, so I just don't chance it and I use either one or the other. I still haven't noticed any of the latency, and it is still incredible to me that whenever I want, I just plug in and then I can go wherever I want within a admittedly limited range of the pedal board, but I don't have issues with dropping. For the price, meaning you get this incredible state-of-the-art pedal board plus a wireless system packaged all into one comprehensive piece, I still think it's a 10 out of 10. Totally worth it. I'm really pleased with past bet. It's probably one of the better investments I've made into my musicality. Definitely better than the other investments that I've made, but you can find that out in a later video. So overall, I would conclude that this purchase is still a 9 out of 10 win. Yeah, okay, so you might not be able to use the wireless all the time. And yeah, there's a little bit of a learning curve to editing your sounds, but overall, this pedal board is totally worth it. And 9 months in, I'm so glad I have this board. I'm about to drop a couple of videos describing the sounds that I use and putting them in a worship context to show you how I use this board. And as always, thank you so very much for watching.